We have some interesting guests coming up in the next few weeks, and those are going to be people I think you'll find interesting, but none of them I don't think are any more interesting than my guest today. He's my friend, he's a fellow Christian writer, and he is a gentleman that has been with us before. So you're going to recognize his name. He writes baseball fiction, and I don't know what other guest would have been more appropriate for this week. I mean, I'm saying the seventh game of the World Series was really something else. J.D. Dudica, what do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Thanks for having me. But yeah, it was pretty intense. It was a great game. Game seven was everything that you wanted it to be.
Baseball is still, I don't know, it's still one of those games that people may not watch it all year, but man, they're watching that series, and that seventh game probably had more people tuned in than, well, maybe even than the Super Bowl. But ooh, I don't want to say that, not in Denver. Anyway, John is here with us today, and we are going to be talking about his books and what he's doing in terms of a writer and what kind of inspiration he can offer to other people because he really is an authentic voice in the world of writing, publishing, and just being inspirational, innovative in the work he's doing. So help me welcome JD Dudica. Hiya.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Of course. And John, um, some people may not have heard your first two interviews with us, and so I wanted to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, you, in the course of a year, have written four books.
Yes.
A
So
little
Paid
over a year?
Paid the Black came out in June 2015. So a year and a
Oh,
half.
year
Well,
and a
my
half.
fourth one will be out in 3 weeks. So year and a half. It will be four books, and then the collection of the four books will be a box set in December. So it'll be all four works together that they can buy on Kindle, which we could talk more about.
Yes, please. Don't let me forget. I so many things I want to talk to John about today because I tried to structure questions that I thought the listeners would be interested in hearing the answers to. So again, if you would be so kind as just to kind of remind us of your baseball background.
Sure. So I played all through my basically whole high school career, growing up. Then played 4 years of college baseball, and then went into coaching shortly after I graduated from college to coach collegiate baseball. And I was in the collegiate baseball coaching world for over 6 years, so over 10 years total in the collegiate game.
And what I find so fascinating about your work is not only can you read it and say, this guy knows what he's talking about, he's obviously been in the field that he's writing about, but I also find it interesting that you have two small kids at home. You also have another job, a day job.
Well, I mean, my day job is my kids. I
Oh,
do still have
bless your heart.
a nonprofit, and then so yeah. But my main focus is the kids when they're there.
And that's a lot. That's a
Yes.
24/7 job.
Yes.
You don't get to call in sick, you don't get vacations, you don't get paid holidays, which is fine because these years go by quickly and it's a blessing. But in all of that work that you do, you still manage to find time to write. And I want to talk a little bit about that motivational journey of yours to help other people who are aspiring artists out there, whatever their field. But for right now, I want to talk about your three books that I've read because the other one has not come out yet.
Correct.
So the first two, you folks may remember, Paint the Black and then Sitting Dead Red. Those were written from the viewpoint of young men, and there of course are young women in there too, but for the journeys of young men trying to find their purpose, and in doing so, the Christian faith that you and I both share, we're sister and brother in the Lord, that they were trying to find those their faith feet,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
The third one is a thriller, and it's about, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't want to give anything away here, it was such a turnaround from the first two. There were similarities in the first two, I thought, but not, I mean, just kind of seeing JD's style. But that third one was a completely different ball game, if you will. Sorry, had to say that.
That's all right.
And it's a thriller called Chasing the Dream. And this is a gentleman two brothers, but one that just absolutely, man, everything goes.
Right.
So he's not really he's kind of on a journey to break all the rules, not
Right.
find them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with the first two, obviously, like you had mentioned, with Paint the Black and Sitting Dead Red, I wrote those from the perspective of two young men trying to find or finding their faith throughout their journey inside of baseball, and then Chasing the Dream. I changed it up a little bit, obviously, because I felt like that's what I was supposed to be writing, and I just listen to the Lord and try to figure out exactly what He wants me to say through my books, and even though that one is a secular book versus the first two, I feel like there is some similarities that cross over to the first two, but by no means is it a redemption type story as like the first couple. It's a straight up thriller, and I had fun with it. I mean, it was a lot of fun to write the characters because they were so much different than my other two main characters, and it was a blast. I mean, I just want to try to, get as stretch my writing quote unquote repertoire as wide as possible.
Well, I think you've done that, and I'm sure you'll continue to do that. And having been blessed to be a beta reader on this, and if you don't know what that is, folks, a beta reader is somebody we use in our writer circle usually. It can be somebody you know, somebody you don't, who you know is going to give you honest feedback on what they think works and what doesn't work. So I saw this book quite a while ago, and when you were, before it actually came to publication, after it had gone to your editor, and I have to tell you, it was a page turner. I was like bouncing back and forth, trying to figure out just when you're into this story of this one brother, and boom, here comes a chapter of the other. That's an interesting technique, and I've seen it used before. Is there somebody you read or a mystery writer or somebody where you felt inspired to do it that way?
Um, Not necessarily, but I do have favorite thriller writers. Lee Child of the Jack Reacher series, and then Clive Cussler are my two favorite authors now. And then along with C.S. Lewis and J.K. Rowling and Tolkien and stuff like that. But especially Child and Clive Cussler, obviously they're a little bit more thriller. Clive Cussler's a little more action adventure, but yeah, I mean the story of the two brothers I wanted to be a parallel story with their lives basically interchanging, intermixing throughout the whole, weaving throughout the whole book, but completely different paths as you're well aware, and people that have read it are well aware that they're not going on the same path, but they obviously are related, and their stories are related, so they're interconnected, and I just tried my best to weave them together and kind of into a web of interesting things that happen and transpire.
And it was that just to give you a little bit more, if you need a little bit more of a hook, the idea of the roller coaster ride, which is thriller,
Right.
right? But
Right.
what I was interested in too was that you would take us up to the very top and then slowly breeze down, and then maybe there would be a sort of a lull to where we could kind of catch our breath because you don't want to
Right.
be upsetting pacemakers and
Right.
stuff for the readers out here.
Right.
You've got to give us a little bit of a rest, and I just thought that was a brilliant technique. So I was interested in who you like to read. They say good writers are also people who read a lot. Um, let's talk about the brothers, and if it's okay with you, and we did talk about this a little bit before the show, um, the interesting parallels that you drew in all three books, brothers, dads, and sons.
Yeah.
One kid really had been very abused by his dad verbally and physically, and how important do you think that message is to put the backstory out there of what these young people are dealing with going into professional sports, coming from the different backgrounds? I'm just going to let you take that away because I think that's an important point.
Yeah, all the three stories that are wrote, and even in the fourth story, there is a lot of father son. There's a lot of brother to brother, and I don't have a brother, but obviously I had a father growing up who was awesome. But it's just my relationship with my dad. I think I wrote in some of the works that I have here, and then I just obviously created other stories that I thought would be interesting to other people who grew up in maybe an abusive home, whether it was verbally abusive or physically abusive or, with an alcoholic father. I've seen that type of behavior before with friends and different people that I've interacted with. So I know that behavior as well. but I wanted people that would pick it up and read it to be able to connect with those, because if you had a great relationship with your parents, great. If you didn't, there's still that angle from the different book that I'm writing, and I think that close bond between, father son, even brother to brother, comes through and rings through completely true in all four books, especially from the baseball side of it, because from a sport where, especially in the first one, where Paint the Black, the father's trying to live vicariously through Jack, and he's still able to connect with them, and they're able to share the sport, and even know that Jack might not like at 18 like his father to be that clingy and that involved, he still appreciates him being there for him. So yeah, I just wanted to have that type of relationship ring true in all the books.
And it's good, I think, to see the messiness of families.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
family's messy.
Oh,
Life's
absolutely.
messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you come from Ward Valley and the Beeve,
Right.
there's still mess
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
So I think that was huge. And when we talked about the three books so far that are out, the fourth, we are definitely going to mention that one too here in a minute or so. Even though, like you said, the first two books were redemptive in sort of their message,
Hmm.
but the other one taught the third one, Chasing the Dream, getting that goal at all costs, no
Right.
matter what.
Right.
I felt an awful lot of really, maybe it's just my age. I'm 65, so maybe I see it from a different lens. But I felt like there was a lot of teaching going on in that book.
Yeah, in my past, I didn't grow up in the faith at all. I wasn't a believer till I was 27. So, my past and how I, looked at life and how I looked at sports definitely comes through in all the works, because you can see that, each character baseball is their main focus. It's their main goal, and that was exactly how I was. And it wasn't until later on, even through the sport, that the characters, especially in the first two, found their way and found their faith through the sport. It wasn't directly related to baseball, but indirectly with teammates, or with women in Sitting Dead Red, with the character Emma, who's a strong female character in there, who showed Royce Thorne the faith. That's how my story was. So that's kind of, I think, how it played out on the page. And growing up just worshiping baseball, so to speak, I was, at all costs, I wanted to make it. I wanted to be a big league ball player. So I could relate to the characters that I wrote in the stories, because that's just the way that I was. That's the way that I was brought up, or not necessarily brought up, rather, but that's the way that I was through the sport.
And they say, write what you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which I agree with, and I don't agree. Well, not necessarily don't agree with it, but I 100% wholeheartedly I agree with write what you know, but write what you love to read, and write what you love to write. So
yeah, and I mean, a lot of fiction writers. I mean, like J.K. Rowling, you
right.
mentioned her. She obviously didn't grow up with Harry Potter and wizards
and
witches. So,
I'm glad people don't listen to that, because you never have the world of, say, Harry Potter. You never have Lord of the Rings and C.S. Lewis and Narnia. So it's just, I mean, people that can come up with that stuff, just I love the fact that fantasy writers can create those worlds. It's an amazing feat.
You have to sit back, especially being a writer, and know what it takes to write, to publish, and to promote these works. And wow, I have to agree with that. I've seen some stuff. I'm like, how in the world did they think of that?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about the family dynamics and the things about families, baseball, or I mean, my son is an artist. I'm an artist. And the supportive family is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely put that in there, I felt. And so that was an important thing for you to do too, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The same thing with my family, was very supportive, and neither of my parents were athletes, so they were supportive in a way that they didn't live the sport, so they were allowing me to do what I wanted to do, and were very supportive in all the decisions that I wanted to make.
And if you wanted anybody, and we have talked about this before with the other two books, but if there was a thing you wanted people to take from Chasing the Dream, other than this was a great read and it was a lot of fun, and I really learned, again, more about baseball, what would be your hope as a writer that folks would take from this?
With Chasing the Dream, and I'll get into more too if we have time about the future of my writing.
Yes.
But I really want people to come to read all of my books, and basically understand that there's an underlying theme throughout most, if not all of them, that there is a redemption side of it in any situation. So if they come back and read Paint the Black and say Sitting Dead Red after reading Chasing the Dream, maybe they find faith through those books, which is my hope and my dream. But I wanted to just make a broad scope of basically all fans to then come and see all of my books as a collection and truly understand why I'm writing and who I'm writing to. And I think that they'll do that once more the books are out versus the secular world, as well as the Christian world. So that's my hope and my dream, and that's how I feel that God has led me to write the books.
Let's talk about the fourth book.
Yeah.
Yes, we have time. I'm very excited about the fourth book. I was just looking at the cover, and John was showing me the back page. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get it big enough to where I could read it, but I saw the back cover enough to say, wow, this is cool. So talk a little bit about that fourth book.
Yeah, so it's called Inside the Dugout, a collection of baseball stories, and it's 5 short stories inside of the book. And I mean, it was an absolute blast to write. The characters are from a perspective of an 8-year-old boy all the way up to a 30-year-old crazed fan. And it was just awesome. And it was super, super fun to write. And, like I said, I had so much fun doing this one because it was just from so many different perspectives, that it was really fun to do.
And the ideas that you got for that, how did you get those? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I'm a nonfiction writer.
Right.
So
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
That feels good.
I'm a pantser, which basically just means I fly by the seat of my pants when I'm writing. I have a brief outline or a thought of what I want to do when I'm writing, but basically I just let my creative juices flow and let God take over and say what I think He wants me to say. But with those 5 stories, it was just the 8-year-old boy. I kind of remember the first time I ever went to stadium and just loved it and was able to write it from there. And then all the way up to the crazed fan, which I'm not a crazed fan just because I love the sport, but I'm not, one team is everything. But it was super fun to write that one as well.
And so go with the flow, go with your heart. Just
I mean, like I said, I'm not smart enough to outline an entire book up front and then write it. It's just like I do a brief outline and I understand where I want to go from point A to point B to point C to the end. So as long as you have that in mind, you can pretty much just fill in the blanks from there.
That makes me feel very good because I don't do a lot of outlining either. So I guess we could have a club called, the flying by the seat of your pants, not very smart.
The pantsing writers.
The pantsing writers. I don't know. We better be careful with that. That could get us.
That's true.
But anyway, I like it. Flying by the seat of your pants. That's wonderful. Let's take a few minutes and thank our international audience, John, because we have people from all over the place who are
scrolling through.
Thank you. And I'm trying to see. So we have Germany today, and we have, of course, we have the United States. We have, hold on just a second. It looks like, the Ukraine and the UK. Love the UK.
Germany. Spain.
Yeah. John's helping me out. Thank you, because I'm having a little bit of trouble with my eyes this afternoon with allergies. But, a lot of these countries watch American baseball, and some of them have baseball teams, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's baseball in Europe, and one of my former players last year played in Europe and played baseball in Europe last year, and so I mean, there's baseball in all over Australia, you name it, it's everywhere.
So I had always heard that there was baseball around the world, and I guess you just confirmed that for me, and I have read some other stories about other leagues over there.
Yeah. Yep.
So how do we call it the World Series? Just a quick question when it's just the U.S.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, technically, I don't think you could call it World Series, but it is professional baseball. And not that there's not professional baseball in Japan and in Korea and China and Europe and all over, but it's what everybody, I guess, aspires to be in the league that they want to be in.
I also want to give you a few minutes to do some shout outs to people who have helped you along the way. I do this with my guests most of the time when we have a few minutes in the middle of the show. And in case you just joined us, this is KUHSdenver.com, Artist Nook. I am Laura Paget, who is a hostess of this particular half hour, first and third Friday of every month from 2 to 2:30 Mountain Time. Always happy to have you with us. And so, there's always there's a collection of people who surround us when we realize our dreams, when we try to reach for our dreams. And So I always like for those people to get the credit they deserve too.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, my wife obviously has been a huge inspiration for me, and just she's there and understands the dream. And then Deb Hall, my editor, she's been phenomenal as well. My family's been great. My some friends, beta readers. My beta readers are huge. Like Laura Badgett, she's been great. But I have a team of beta readers that get my work about a month and a half before it goes to publication, and their thoughts and their ideas are outstanding, and I take most of them to heart. Sometimes I put some into the writing, so it goes into the final product. So yeah, there's been just countless people that have been there for me.
No, it's just wonderful. And Joan and I are friends through a writers group, which we found, and it's called Writers on the Rock, which is in the group we met with for a while was the Lakewood group. And I go there, and John still pops in there once in a while. And also, there are several other groups, Power of the Pen. I'm going to be speaking about the lady who leads that here in a few minutes. And then a Highlands Ranch group with my editor, Roylene Doyle. So, that particular piece of information I'm handing you because one of the things I believe, and John and I have talked about this too, is that when we began to kind of forge the trail, part of our work, especially as Christians, is to share some of the things that have motivated, kept us on track, and helped us along as we've done this particular writing endeavor. So you have two little kids. They take up a lot of your wonderful, beautiful little kids, take up your part of your life, your wife, your nonprofit, and still you find time to write. So can you give us a little bit and give some inspiration to our writers out there who might
Yeah,
want
I mean, I stick to a pretty strict schedule. I write from 9:30, 10 o'clock to about 11, 11:30. So I try to get in about 1,500 to 2,000 words a day. And I'm diligent with that because I need to be, because after this fourth book's come out, I'll put out another book in March. So I need to continue to go throttle down and buckle down and get after it. So yeah, that's kind of my schedule in the afternoon. I do some marketing and stuff like that when my kids are having their quiet time and whatnot. And I just find time throughout the day that I'm able to do a little bit here, a little bit there, but the writing schedule has to take precedence over me wanting to scroll through internet or sports scores or anything like that. That can't happen if I want to continue on the path and the career that I'm aspiring to have.
So is that 9:30 to 11 a.m. or p.m.?
PM. Or I'm sorry, AM, because my
AM.
son is at school. So when my
Oh.
son goes to pre-K and my daughter is napping in the morning, I'm able to do that.
Right. Okay. So there's one way to do it, folks. And I know I talk to people, and I just had another lady contact me about starting a writing career. And one of the things I told her was, you have to decide why you're writing.
Right.
What's that objective?
Right.
You have told me you want this to be your professional career.
Right.
I'm not necessarily on
Right.
that bus. I enjoy writing, and I've had I think my work with Chicken Soup and some of the other things, Dolores Like the River, they've helped some people, and that was my objective all
Right.
along.
Yep.
But I could afford, I think, to kind of have a little less discipline because I'm not looking at that particular goal of having this be a job.
Right.
This is a job.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, that's kind of the goal. My goal to myself, right before Chasing the Dream came out, was to have 6 books out by the end of 2017. And that I have 2 so far, and I've finished another one that I'm going to actually completely rewrite, and started another one, which is the series that I'm going to continue on for probably 10 to 15 books with the same character, and it's going to be Clive Cussler type. It's going to be all scuba diving, finding treasure, all that kind of stuff, which I'm a huge fan of, and I'm certified in scuba diving. So all of that's going to come out next year. So I'm super pumped.
You could ever write a book about fish stories?
Yes, I'm actually, the one I just finished is a fly fishing novel, but I got through the entire thing and I was so frustrated with how it was coming. And like, as I'm a pantser, of course, I didn't have that outline. So I was following it. And then at the end, I'm like, I'm completely redoing this. So
Okay.
I'm going to completely redo that, and that'll come out again next year, hopefully. But the character who's going to be the use diver, the salvage diver, is going to be coming out as well. So hopefully those two series will be out in 2017.
Wow, that's going to be fun. I have some fish stories that I shared one with you once, and I have the picture to prove it. My husband can verify it that I actually caught a nice big fish once. But that particular story played in my faith too, because I believe Jesus saved my life out there in the river because I knew how to do ballet. But that's a whole different story. But I was the dance saved my life
Right.
once again.
Center of gravity.
It was a center of gravity and knowing when to be in releve and when to be in other things. So, but how do we get a hold of John Dudica's work?
So all my stuff is for sale on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com. Paint the Black is going to be wide here pretty soon. It's going to be on all Barnes and Noble, Nook. It will be on Kindle. It will be on iBooks. So that will come out here in the next couple of weeks. But the other three are all, or the other four, or all four, will be available on Amazon all the time. And then the box set will be coming out in December, right in time for Christmas, that you will be able to get all four books in the same set on Kindle. That you can pick that up as well. And then you can get the paperback on Amazon. And then they're in a few bookstores, but mainly online is the retail. And my website's www.jddudica.com. You can get all the information there too.
You want to spell Dudica for us?
Yep, Dudycha.
So can we have that website again, please?
JDDUDYCHA.
And there's no period in that JD thing?
Nope.
All right. Well, that's great. And this has been really a great relationship for me because I'm very inspired by this young man. I think he has discipline. And do you think, I was going to ask you this too, and I'm going to ask you now, that discipline to do that writing, do you think you pull that from the discipline of being a sports?
Yes.
Sure.
And I have a very thick skin, which helps me out a lot too, especially when it comes to editing and what people have to say after they read the book. If with reviews and somebody hated my book, it doesn't necessarily bother me. I try to learn from what they have to say if they have anything credible to say, and if there's something constructive that I can put into the novel or just into the work, then I'll take that from it. But if somebody's just like, I don't like it, well,
that's okay.
That's totally fine with me.
That's fine.
It just wasn't for you. So yeah, I think the thick skin as well as everything that I've learned through sports has helped me out tremendously.
Okay, so people can get a hold of watch you on your website. You told you how to get a hold of the books. The website lists the books.
Yeah, the website's you can get if you go onto the website, click on books available, you can go directly to Amazon to pick up the books there too.
Well, that's great. And so I want to take a second and thank you, John.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, we always have a good time. We come in, and Uncle Henry Archuleta is here today running our board. He's just a delightful gentleman, and he's always fun to have around. He's smiling.
He's always smiling.
He's always smiling. We don't know why. We don't smell anything.
He knows something that we don't.
Yeah, we don't smell anything funny in the air. We don't know what's going on with Uncle Henry,
Right.
but he's a delight, and I want to thank him for running the board for me again today. So my name is Laura Paget, and if you want to catch up with me, what I'm doing, what I'm up to, please check out my website at Laura Paget, LauraLPaget.com, and that's Laura, LauralPaget.com. And that'll tell you what you need to know about me if you're interested. Also, there's a way to contact me on there if you're interested in being on my show. I am actually booked until February of next year if Henry doesn't fire me. And we have some really interesting guests coming up. One of them that's coming up this month is a lady named Patricia Raybon, and she's going to be with us on November the 18th. Patricia's a very prolific nonfiction writer. She's written for people like Christianity Today, Dr. Charles Stanley with In Touch Ministries. She's a very interesting woman. She's a teacher. She's just a prolific writer. And what we'll be talking about that day is her book called I Told the Mountain to Move, about her experience walking into prayer in crisis. And just as I've read this book in my own life, I've begun to see ways to apply really deep seated prayer and presence with God. So please do join Patricia and I on the 18th at 2:00 p.m. right here on KUHSdenver.com. In December, I'm going to have my friend Amanda Hill, who's from Virtuosity Dance, and she's going to be with us the first Friday and telling us about her production of the Nutcracker coming up in Golden at Golden High School. And then, as I mentioned last time, the third Friday of the month, we are going to have in December Ask an Elf.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm captain of the elves, folks, and I've been recruiting elves. I have a great team of elves, about 8 of us. I don't know how many will be in
What's your
here.
best elf voice?
You're hearing it.
That's it?
Well, I have to be very professional at all times. I'm captain.
Okay.
I am captain of the elves.
All right.
Now, if you'd like to hear Mickey Mouse, I could do that one. But the elves and I are very much looking forward to this. So what we're asking is if people would go to a email that we've set up specifically. Excuse me. It's KUHS Artists Nook, ARTISTS. I'm looking at John like John's a writer. John's spell checking today. Nook, Nook. Now that artist does not have an apostrophe because you can't do that in email or website names. At gmail.com. And that information's on my website too. And you can send questions for the elves. And we will be answering them. We won't be taking live calls, but we will be answering them here. And I just really hope you'll join us. That's going to be a fun and crazy show because the elves have just a lot of fun. And we see it as a ministry to bring joy in a world that, just maybe my opinion, needs a little joy right now. If you'd like to pick up a copy of my book, you can find that information also on my website. Or you can pick it up at the Book Bar, 4280 Tennyson, Wings of Eagles in Golden on 905 12th Street, or Abergata in the Colorado Mills, which they kind of cover a lot of different arts in there. They really like to support local artists. In the meantime, I thank you for joining us, and I'm going to have Uncle Henry put on another rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Both of them, the one at the beginning of the show and this one at the end, are renditions that my son, Gabriel Tafoya, has sort of arranged for us to have a lot of fun with. So the first one you heard, here's the second one. And for those of us who are baseball fans, I guess we'll be anxiously waiting for April, yeah?
That's right.
That's right. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Laura. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Uncle Henry. Y'all have a blessed weekend. Be careful, be safe, and just have a ball. Bye-bye. Good show.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Did you get to say everything you wanted to?
Yeah, I think so.
I do too. You know, sometimes I do. It's a funny kind of a balance because you say to yourself, well, I want to, I do a lot of reading of what we're going to present, and I know you personally. If I don't know somebody personally, it's kind of tough. Well, trying to lead it, but not.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Yep, it'll be fun.
Oh, I know. It's going to be. I'm excited about the other one coming out. I'm sorry I couldn't beta read that
that's
one
all
for
right.
you. Just things are going on in my own personal life right now. It's keeping me
I
kind
think
of
you'll
crazy.
like it.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah, the short stories were super fun.
They are.
They're
And
awesome,
Sharon
right?
Carnes is the one. She came to. I don't know if you read that Writers on the Rock meeting that
Mhm.
night. She was there. She wrote a thing called Tesseract, and that's what she'll be talking about in January with us. And she talked for the first time about doing the short stories, and I'm like, because there's so much emphasis on novels,
Right.
novellas.
Right.
And I'm like, thanks, Henry. I'm like, but I like short stories.
Right.
I love writing for Chicken Soup.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've submitted anything to them for a while, but yeah, that's great. So that, and also, she also gave people permission to reach out beyond the Christian world.
Okay.
She said, you don't have to stay within the Christian world.
Right.
and she talks a lot about, is it Colorado Authors? I can't remember what she belongs to. And I looked into that. I think I'm not a big joiner
Yeah.
anymore. I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm kind of appreciate groups, but I don't know if I want to pay dues to belong to the press club or stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm in the Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers Club or Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers Group, and I've done the podcast a few times there. And they have a big conference in September every year.
Do you go to that?
I did. I just did it this year. I just signed up, and I wasn't able to go in September, but I will next year.
Oh, okay. And then you're going to go. You said you're going to be at the.
Yeah, I'm planning on it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay, we got everything ready to go.
What's that?